What's going on, guys? Welcome back to episode 8 of Card Talk. I'm Ryan, joined by Tyler and Lou as always. We're actually recording this episode a little early this week, so bear with us if there's something crazy that happens in the hobby. We will get to it on an Instagram live or in next week's episode. But we want to start off today as we got a 3 or 4 part question from one of our listeners. It says, hey Ryan, hope you and the shop are doing well. Looks like things are starting to get back on track, and the podcast has been a great addition. Had a couple questions or topics that perhaps you guys would consider for future episodes. So it says, we'll just go right into the questions. How do sell strategies differ between social media sales versus eBay versus private sales, meaning shows, etc.? So, Lou, Ty, any immediate thoughts on this?
Yeah, for sure. So, first and foremost, like understanding the value of a marketplace and like why does something like eBay exist, right? So, like any two-way marketplace, Etsy, or there's a lot of them you can go on and on. eBay's value is marrying the buyer and the seller, right? There's a lot of work that needs to be done. Great, you can go and sell on eBay, but you start an account of 0 followers. There's work that needs to be done. So to find your potential buyers. And then there's also a layer of trust, right? So eBay exists because, one, they bring a massive community of buyers to the table for the seller. They also are a trusted and reputable brand. So if you're buying on that platform, you have faith that they have process and procedures in place to protect the buyer from a fraudulent seller. For that, they charge a fee. It's common business. This is the service that I provide, a trusted place for you to come and shop, and I'm going to charge a fee to the seller to sell to those consumers. So that's number one. That's important to realize, because as a seller, you are the reason you're going there is because you're getting a big audience to potentially buy it. But if I meet Ryan walking down the middle of the street and I'm wearing a card around my neck and he's like, I want to buy that card from you, and then you as a seller pull it up and are like, okay, it's going for $1,000 on eBay, I want to sell it for $1,000. That doesn't take into account the fact that for the seller, when they sold it for $1,000 on eBay, they then had to pay a 13% clip, which they don't have to pay when they're doing a direct transaction off platform. So those prices, when this is something that's different, is you shouldn't comp direct off of these platforms, StockX or eBay, if you're doing a transaction off platform, because that price carries a higher price point because of the fee. So if you're a seller, right? So and it's important for the buyer to know, because when you're negotiating, you should negotiate that in.
But Ty, I will say, I think it's very important here to point out, like, I agree with that a lot. Like, if you're selling something, eBay, you're going to lose percentage. Now the buyer is also going to pay taxes. That's a new addition to eBay in the last year. But I think the big thing is how rare is the item you're selling, right? So if a, LeBron Ultimate 9/5/10 rookie auto is the item you're discussing, those don't pop up a ton. That's a pretty rare item. You can get full eBay market value on something like that because there's always someone looking for something extremely rare. Whereas if you're looking for a card we talk about a lot, maybe a Luka PSA 10 Prism base where there's 12,000 of them and it's not super rare, I think that's a little bit of a different argument and something to consider.
Definitely. And then I think the next point on that, which smart and makes sense and is very clear to me, but as an individual seller selling off platform for the product that you just mentioned, that may be $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. We've talked about it on this podcast in the past. There are responsibilities that come with that. And it is, it's not just a walk in the park to sell something for $30,000 to an individual. There's a lot that goes into it. And one, being on eBay, there's protections in place that don't exist, Ryan, you operating your shop. Like in your first year, you were not as good of a salesman as you were in your second year or your third year, or understanding how to make sure you get the actual value from the card. There's a lot of dynamics that come into play. A lot of times negotiating can be tough. You like have this emotion of you want to do best for the individual, or you want to do best for yourself, or you're thinking about your, car payment and you need to hit that. But then the person comes in and is like, hey, can I get it for this price? And so there's a lot of that doesn't take place per se when you're behind a keyboard selling on eBay or StockX.
And Lou, you, I know, have sold a lot on Instagram. I know you use Instagram stories a lot. What are some of your thoughts about the comparison with social media, eBay, private, etc.?
Yeah, I agree with all the things you guys are saying. I just think functionally the main difference is on eBay you're paying direct with PayPal. You're like Tyler was saying, as a seller, you're getting access to this whole library and phone book of buyers, basically. So you have to pay a vig on that. When you're doing direct on social or direct on PayPal, etc., primarily you're going to look at PayPal, where you pay. I prefer to do that stuff. I prefer to do both, but I think if I can go there, it's cool because you can do PayPal direct. And then if you're doing an in-person cash deal, that's where you get into a scenario where you could pay less because you're paying with cash, right? I think generally speaking, when you're talking to someone in person and you can hand them cash, you can take the eBay price and you can cut down from there, and you can even cut down from price from there because it's just straight up cash deal. So I think doing both, all three have pros and cons, but for me, the social sales are great because I have, I have direct access to these people, and it's just better to form the relationships.
Yep. And I think that's a good point. Because the next question is going to be, is cross-posting smart? So meaning listing it on every single one of the platforms. Do you list it on Facebook, Instagram, eBay, etc.? eBay is, we talk about this all the time, the biggest marketplace for selling cards, right? The amount of attention on eBay you're not getting on Facebook, you're not getting on Instagram, you're not getting it at a show, you're not getting it anywhere else. It's eBay for a reason. But there are advantages, like Lou said, to selling elsewhere. But do you guys post your stuff on all different platforms at once? Do you stick to one at a time? How do you guys do it?
Yeah,
I post everything everywhere. The answer's always everywhere.
I'm 99%. I just put it up on eBay because it's a question of how much time, energy, effort are you putting into it? There's more that goes into it, and sometimes that pays off for saving maybe the 13% fee for using the platform. But for me, that makes things more efficient, and my time, I value my time. So listing it on multiple different platforms, if it sells on one, then you got to make sure that you take it down on others or risk looking like a bad seller. If you've got multiple people that are DMing you about interest of the card, you have to go back and forth on that versus just eBay, you get a notification, boom, contained. So those are all preferences of the individual. How big are you taking this thing? How serious? How much time? Ryan, you spend all your working life on this. You have a lot of different ways you go about it. You have your shop, you have your top customers. I have a customer base. If I'm looking to unload a car that's worth $20,000, I know who I'm activating on that. I also sell on eBay. I'm speaking for you. 55 cards a day goes live. You probably dabble a little bit in StockX. You do your own on Instagram. Yeah, right. But this is a 24/7 thing for you. For me, it's like a side thing. So yeah.
And I was going to say, I actually I don't sell on StockX. I rarely sell on Instagram. The thing that works well for us for eBay is when we post on Instagram, that we're selling something, we'll get 25 to 30 DMs about one thing. When you put it on eBay, eBay has the interface that allows you to manage everything at one stop. Who made an offer? Did you accept an offer? Did they pay? Did you ship? Did they receive it? Did you get feedback? When you sell something on Instagram or on Facebook, you have to, weed through all the offers between different messages, between different buyers. You have to see, are these guys legit? On eBay, you've got a feedback score, so there's an advantage there. You've got to see, did they pay? Is their address the same? Again, there's a lot that goes into selling on social media where it's nice, where you may not have to pay a fee, but the amount of work that eBay does with their interface is a huge bonus for us. So the only place we sell outside of the store, again, besides brakes, is through eBay. It's so much easier for us to keep track of, and it's easier to lead all of our followers to hey, you want to buy something from us? Here's where it's for sale. It's one stop. So for us, it's strictly eBay.
Yep.
Yeah. My thing on cross posting is like I'm posting everything on eBay first and then I put it on Instagram afterwards. And like if someone wants everything goes on eBay, right? Everything's there. People can hit me on DMs there and send offers there, etc. But also like if I post it on my Instagram page and someone DMs me like, yo, I'll take it, like cool, I'll just take it off eBay. Like to me, it's also the time, like you guys are saying, it's the time of like posting it. It takes like 5 minutes. I get it. And then like you have to go back and check the DMs. And then if something if I sell something on Instagram and then I go to take it off eBay and it's already been bought, like that kind of sucks, but like it happens. So to me, it's just like, number one, what am I selling? Because like if I'm going to sell a car that's like crazy expensive, you have to weigh the value of having eBay's protections versus
100%.
the vet you're going to pay. So,
yep. All right, and then our the last kind of part of this kind of switches the subject completely, but it says, what are your thoughts on Project 2020 from Topps as an investment or its sustainability, especially with your, I think it said comments from episode 3, but I don't have the rest of it. So just in general, thoughts on Project 2020. And I think we could kind of shift this as, because I know we've talked about this previously off air, but thoughts on demand printing, right? Panini Instant, Topps Project 2020. I saw Tyson Beck is doing something with Jason Tatum, right? Like cards that are not pack pulled, right, from a box of cards. Thoughts on that in general?
I think that there's a real massive opportunity for it. And I think it all is just a function of supply and demand. I think the non-pack pulled aspect is something that will be like, 5 years from now, like not even a debate per se. But I think that really what you'll start to see, to me, Topps 2020 is the first in the evolution of, how a Supreme drop works, or, some of these more, newer fashion brands, or even artists for that matter. If it's print on demand, cool. How is, the print comes and then how does the market react to it? If the supply is higher than the demand, I mean, even if it's 50,000 Fauci, and then 10 years from now, Fauci win some big, presidential award for the work he's done, and everyone wants a relic of it, and the demand's 250,000. Topps 2020 is great, but then there's also some that the hype was so big while it was happening, everyone was just buying, and then 3 years from now, the print run was 70,000 and there's 7,000 people that are interested in the card. Like, yeah, doesn't work. But I think what you'll start to see is smaller, more contained versions of Topps 2020. To me, Topps 2020 is just the molding of kind of art and cards, and I think you're gonna see things go there. That's where Tyson Beck is going. I think you're gonna see more and more of this art conversation. I'm currently reading this book called Boom about contemporary art and the rise of that. So to me, it's just Topps 2020 is a supply and demand thing, and I think that in the beginning it was so hot because the supply was little and the demand was off the chart because they were like, oh, this is cool, and then everyone started chasing. Topps 2020 is now still going on, even though some people maybe not realize that, but their new releases are still coming out. I think they oversaturated the market a bit just based on like the conditioning of going back to that site and purchase all the time. But I think some cards will ring tremendously true 5 years from now and be like seen as real pieces. And the majority of them won't because the demand won't be there. But I think you'll start to see more and more. It's no different than a numbered card. One of 250, right? Then how many the supply is. It's constrained, and is the demand greater than that or less than that? If only 100 people are interested in a numbered card to 150, then like it's irrelevant. But if 1,000 people want a card numbered to 150, it creates more demand because the print run, whereas you don't know the print run totally of Luka, which is why grading plays such a factor, because now exactly 12,000 and some change Lukas. Great. That supply is right in front of my face. But when it's raw, it's like, I don't know how many of these exist.
Lou, any thoughts?
To me, the Project 2020 thing, like Tyler said, like, Topps Now and Panini Instant existed in 2017. Did they do Panini Instant in 2017 or that came out afterwards? I know Topps Now was 2017.
It's been out for a minute because I remember what year did LeBron beat the Warriors? 17, 16?
17.
There's a block card from like LeBron from Panini Instant that sells for a good amount of money. It's
Yeah,
like
so I
the
think
block.
so. They've been doing it since 2017, and I think Project 2020 was the first stab at what it looks like in a different context. To me, what happened with Project 2020 was they gave everyone like every artist does every guy, and it's like there's 400 Tops Now cards, and it's like, why? My thing is why with that, but the idea of it was a good idea within the context of Tops. They're in the business of printing cards, so it makes sense that they want to create as many cards as humanly possible. In terms of resale, I'm not so sure. I think the Ben Baller ones are always going to be a big factor going forward. I think the Blake Jameson ones are pretty dope as well. So that's just personal opinion. But my thing is, I think over the long term, Project 2020 itself won't hold the value other than the early printed cards that have like 1,000, 2,000 print run, like the Trout. But the idea of it is here to stay. And I think we'll see different iterations of it in the future.
Yeah, I agree with almost all of that. The idea is going to stay. They will continue to print it. That's going to happen. I think the other good point you make is demand, right? Like, or is supply. If you would have given one artist one rookie card to draw, and they would have each drawn one, and there's only
it's over
10 rookie cards, then I think the demand is there. The fact that there's the same guys being repeated, every 6 weeks or so, like in terms of like rookies or artists, it seems like you're just creating more supply than there is demand. But I think on like specific events, like again, like things like the LeBron block with like Panini Instant, like if you're creating cards around a memorable thing, I think that has more sustainability long term. It'll be interesting to see, but the idea or the concept of on demand printing, it's definitely here to stay.
Yep.
And like Ben Baller could do a collab with, well, who knows, a presidential candidate or the next big rapper, or and all of a sudden it blows up, and then people are in demand of his stuff. So that is also a factor. Like these things will play out, and the artist, the way that art works and the way that markets respond to certain artists. At one point, you could buy the same Andy Warhol painting that goes for 7 figures today for $1,000.
Yep.
And then he became an icon and just massive culturally relevant. So I think the art collaboration thing is really important. But yeah, we're going to see how the supply plays out compared to the demand over time.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and get into this week's interview. We recently sat down with Pat Neshek, former Major League Baseball pitcher, about his hobby journeys as well as his time in Major League Baseball. So here is that interview.
Welcome back to Card Talk. This is Lou. I'm here with Ryan. Tyler could not join us today, but it's all good. We are here with Pat Neshek, former MLB pitcher, amazing collector. I want to talk to him forever about it, but I'm going to let him introduce himself here.
Hey, thanks, guys. Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, let's talk some cards. I'm ready.
Let's do it. My first question, this is a personal one for me, just to get us rolling here. You pitched for the Astros, my favorite team.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear a little bit about your career in general, and then specifically about your time in the best city in America, Houston, Texas.
Well, let's just start off with the Astros. 2015, I was coming off an all-star year with the Cardinals. They went out and they signed Luke Gregerson. We kind of fortified the bullpen, and people were like, "Why are you spending money on that?" And they were like, "You're just gonna get last place again." And we got into spring training. Hinch was his first year, and he was kind of like, he was with the Diamondbacks for a little bit managing, but he kind of like was like, "You guys, what do we do here?" So he got kind of the veteran guys together, and we kind of set the rules, and like it was kind of neat. I mean, I never got to a place to have that kind of freedom. St. Louis was real structured. Minnesota was really structured. San Diego was kind of a shit show, but and Oakland was really fun. So I would compare it really like Oakland was. It was just a really loose clubhouse. A lot of guys you knew were going to be really good. But they didn't really like Correa wasn't up in the big leagues yet. So we kind of just took the season and we were just kicking guys' butts early on. And it was weird. A lot of people didn't believe in us, and we ended up getting the wild card that year. And then it just went from there. So
one of my favorite things now is to think about because obviously, listen, I'm not even going to do this to myself because I was about to get into the Astros thing and I'm just not going to do it. But what I'm going to say is one of my favorite things now is to look back on those teams, because a lot of the seeds of what they became in 17 and 18 and 19 starts there. So I love those teams. So
yeah, it's crazy. I think a lot of the veteran guys too, like Luke Gregerson was huge with a lot of the guys. I know he sat Bregman down. I think he was like 1 for 40, and he had a conversation with him. And they sat down, they drank some beer after a game, and the next game he came in and had 3 hits, and it kind of set him off. And I know guys like Feldman were there for like Keuchel, and some of the other guys. We just had a good base, and I don't think those older veteran guys get a lot of credit, and that's kind of what turned that whole organization around. And then the guys took it from there, like guys like Will Harris and stuff stepped up, and were great for the pitching staff. Yeah.
So as you're playing in baseball, you obviously had a pretty long career winding. You played on a few different teams or several different teams. What was it like collecting during that time? I know you were collecting when you were a kid, and then you got back into it as you were a pro. So talk about that a little bit. And like, were you just like rolling up to guys in the dugout and being like, "Hey, Alex Bregman, want to sign this?" Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. No, it's weird. Like I grew up like collecting a lot of stuff in the 80s. I was in Minnesota though, so it was really hard. Like I never knew you could like stand outside the Metrodome and guys would walk by to their car and you could get them. So I would always see, they had a card shop in Minnesota called Schindler's, and I would always see the autograph cards, and they were like $5-10 for like the crappy guys. And, prices went from there, but I never knew it was that easy to get guys. So when I went to college, my roommate was like, he was a big Ohio State guy, and he would just like rack them every week, get the football team, basketball. And this was like the infancy of eBay. So like he was selling these balls for $200-300. And he one weekend, he's like, "Hey man, you want to come with?" And I'm like, "What are we doing? Going to the game?" I'm like, "Can we scalp tickets or something? I don't have much money." He's like, "No, we're going to get the whole team to sign stuff. And then we're going to sell this, And I'm like, "Okay, I'll just," so I was kind of like his lackey, and I would hand 2-3 balls. And man, I had like enough like pizza money for like 3 months in like 1 week. And I'm like, "Hey, what are you doing next week? And let's go get somebody else." So pretty soon I was getting like Duke basketball or Connecticut women's. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm getting some of this stuff, but like, it was really cool to flip it real quick and go from there. So that kind of got me into it. And then baseball came around. I always had a passion for baseball. And they had the AAA team in Indianapolis. I went to school at Butler, and that's right in Indianapolis, Indiana. So these guys would come out, and like, I remember one night, like Alfonso Soriano walked by, and I think he signed, we had like a 100 count lot of like these just minor cards, and we handed it, and he was like waiting for like his ride, and he just sat there and signed 100 cards. And I'm like, this is awesome. And like 2 years later, the guys like went in World Series and is a star. So, but it was just stories like that where like I always like that. You could go out there, meet somebody, and there's always a great story behind it all. So then flash forward, I get drafted. This is about 2003, and nobody ever really made a card. I got a card, I think it was 2002 was my first one, in Elizabeth in Tennessee. It was a team card, and I was just like, oh, this is awesome. So then 2003, I got a Quad City card, and I found the guy who actually made like the minor league cards. And I was like, I need to get a stack of like 10,000 of these things because I want to give these out to fans and stuff. And so the guy was cool. He just made a big lot. And then every year from there on out, I just contact him every time the team set card. I'm sure it was probably illegal now that, it's like, hey, make 10,000 of these.
Yeah, you definitely can't do that.
Yeah, let's make some pool house cards here, these trout cards. But so I did that, and then I started a web page, and that was, back then, like nobody had the phones. I brought a laptop on the bus, and I had like the little wireless card, and so I could like download stuff and check scores. But it was like everybody would make fun of me, like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm gonna make this blog," and I would update it every day with like the autograph stories that I saw. Like we had Joe Mauer on our team, so it'd be like, "Oh, look how much he got hounded, and here's what's all the stuff that went up on eBay, and look at all these fakes and stuff." And so it was really cool to see that grow. And then, I kept that up until I got to the big leagues, and I always had an offer. I didn't get a Bowman card or like a Topps card until I actually made the big leagues and had like 3 months in. But I always made an offer since I had all those minor league cards, like, "Hey, send me a card of anybody and I'll send you one of mine." So that's kind of how it started. And the blog was, I used to like post all the letters I would get with like, "Hey, I got something from Joe in Portland, Oregon," or, and I would write back, like, I'd post pictures of some of the cool stuff I got or the fans I met. And it kind of blew up after like the 06-07 season with the Twins. But I met so many cool people, and my collection just really grew, and it was kind of nuts from there.
So what are you, Pat, I know you from watching you on social, you collect a lot of different things. But what do you really focus on now with your collection?
Yeah. My main thing is like vintage baseball. I love the 1970 top set. I use PSA to get that stuff graded. So like, I think I got it done like almost 80% in a 10, and it's the best in the world. I have some really cool like older like Mantle rookies that are 8s in the Bowman. Eddie Matthews. Yeah, really some really cool high end stuff. But probably my passion is like autographed Topps cards.
Gotcha.
Just because they don't really hold value. I mean, you could get like, not like Trout, but you could get some of these superstars and you could still find them for $5-10 on eBay. Cards usually typically don't. I mean, they do and they don't, but they're like the lower end. So you could accumulate a lot more of them. They're easy to store. That's probably my passion. I like to, see what collectors are doing at some of the AAA parks, or if a guy's doing a sign-in somewhere, they'll help me out and we could finish the set. But I like to work on the old top sets or even the new sets and try to finish them.
Very cool.
But I have a lot of, I have like garbage pail sets. Some just like, I really like vintage, like the Hall of Fame guys, the stars. I used to do a lot of rock and roll stuff from the 60s autographs. But just one of my hobbies is to go out on there's a really good like town auction in Melbourne down here, and just to see the stuff that comes up. It's I love city auctions. I love going to garage sales and just finding value in stuff.
So I would say, for listeners of our show, we're typically more talking about the card market and buying and selling cards for profit a lot of the time.
Yeah.
You would consider yourself much more of a hardcore collector, right?
I like the flips. I like to sell stuff too. I mean, if I see, this weekend I saw a Mantle, and one of my good friends is Steve Grad at Beckett Authentication. So I'll just send him a picture and he's like, yeah, that's real. So I picked up a Mantle for about $100 and it was an 8x10. I didn't really want it. And I found somebody on eBay and the thing sold like the next day for $275. So, I mean, if I see a value, I'll buy it. It's not really going to stay in my collection, but if you see stuff that's underpriced, yeah, I'm definitely on it. And I do that with cards too. I mean, I'll use vintage card pricing and if there's something that, what was the auction the other, Robert Edwards, I picked up a Jordan 8 for, I think it was like $4,500. And I know they're going for about $6,500. Yeah. So, that's going to be an easy flip down the road.
Hell yeah.
It's just stuff you just use some of the stats out there. And I like to do the graded though. I'm really bad at the raw stuff. I'm terrible. I can't I'll send everything in. I bought a bunch of 85 tops. I was working on like a PSA 10 set. I was picking them up on 4 Sharp Corners for like $5, like in 2011 and 12. And I had like probably 60% of the set done in a 10 for like $3-4 grand. It was nothing. I was picking up like the Pucketts were like $100 back then. The Clemenses were like 125. But I bought a couple rack cases like 3 months ago, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try my hand again at this grading thing here. And I sat like days like looking at. I'm like, this has got to be a 10, And I put it in the holder, and I finally got PSA Beckett. Everybody's backed up right now, but I got one of the orders back like last week. Oh man, I failed so bad.
You got crushed.
It was like 7 10s out of like 110 85 cards. And I'm like, what do I do with these 8s? I don't even know what to do with these things.
That's something I think, Ryan, that I want to talk about down the road as well. But just like the act of grading is like such a tough thing. Like, you look at these cards and I'm like, all right, cool. Like I got this dope little like Joe Adele card right here. I think this card is super cool. I'm like, oh yeah, this looks great. This is a 10. And then I send it to them and it gets a 7. And I'm like, how does that happen? Like none of it makes any sense to me. Like I would love to be able to dive into that one day a little bit more, but yeah, that's fun. So you have like a wild, hardcore, like super deep, complete sets, right?
Yeah, for the signed stuff and the graded. Yeah, I like to build those. Yep.
That's so cool. So
it's cool. Like that's a cool thing. Like with some of the PSA stuff or Beckett with the registry, you can see how many's out there, and that's kind of why I gravitate towards vintage, is just because like nobody's finding this new stuff. Some of the stuff you kind of wonder, because in the last 2 years, you'll see stuff from Probe Scene that comes up, and it's like, where is he trimming these, or like somebody's got to be trimming these out of like sheets, because I've seen so much new stuff in the last 2 years that I haven't seen in the last like 15. And then I try my hand at it, and it's like they're coming back 7s, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. This is so comparable to what I have in my hand, but yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I think part of that is the last couple of years there's been such a big explosion again that all these people who had these things in their closet and these things in their parents' garage that they had completely forgotten about, they randomly now come across stuff on Instagram and Twitter, and they're back at their parents' house for a holiday season, and they're like, oh my god, I have this like ridiculously rare car. Yesterday, I haven't told you this, Ryan. This is unrelated, but I was talking to someone yesterday who used to work at VaynerMedia, and she was going through her parents' like garage or something like that, and she found like 5 figures worth of Pokemon cards, like just sitting there, sealed wax, sealed packs, and I'm like, and the only reason it's in her head is because now she's seeing us talk about it, and I'm sure there's like people talking to her about it and blah blah. But like the awareness of cards now is bringing people back to it, where they can go into their garage and they can find all this crazy rare stuff. Like it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's nuts. One of the kids' dads on my little league team, he's like, "What are you doing this week?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm cleaning out the closet, so a lot of this modern stuff's crazy right now." And we got to talk, and he's like, "Well, I have a couple Michael Jordan rookies, and I don't know where they are though. I think they're under my kid's bed. I had them when I was younger."
Under
and I'm
my
like,
kid's bed.
Yeah, I was like bullshit. There's no way you have this. And sure enough, he brings them by, and I'm like looking at him like, well, that's like a 5. I'm like, this is like $2,500 right now, And he had the whole sticker set, and then he's like, I'm like, what else do you have? He's like, well, I have this like Series 1 garbage pill set. I don't know. I'm like, who are you? Like, why do you guys? So that's kind of the people that are coming out right now are like, they're going, hey, this stuff is worth money. So it's really cool to see a lot of that stuff like come out of the woodwork. It's kind of like I look for like a lot of my 101 cards, and it's like, did some kid open this up in 2007? It's been sitting in his closet, and now he's finally selling it. It's pretty cool to see what comes up on eBay every night.
So when you're looking around, do you buy your own stuff? I assume, right? Do you know Tyler Wagner well at all? So
we follow each other. I don't know him too well though. But
we were talking to him about it, and he's like, yeah, like I'm always looking for my cars, and I can never find my stuff. And he found like a gold Bowman auto or something like that. And
then they hold it hostage.
And I was thinking about the idea of me pulling out like my own Bowman gold card, and I was like losing my mind. So like I would love to hear about you, like if you bought your own stuff.
It's cool. Yeah, I do all the time. But it's really funny. You get there's like 2 sets of people. It's like one that want to hold it hostage from you.
Yep.
2, there's like the people that'll buy it and try to flip it to you and hold it hostage to you. And then there's like 3 that don't even want to charge you a dime, and they're just like thankful that you collect. And so it's funny seeing both sides of it. I had my first card was a box topper in 2006 Topps Update. And so they didn't even put me in the set. It was just a box topper. And so there was 50 different guys you could be, and they made a $5.99 version, and then they made the refractor version of 25. So over the years I found 8. I know there's one other out there, and this guy's like, I need like 5 jerseys and a couple $100. And I'm like, this is like a $20 card at the most, and it's only because I'm buying it, man. And like he still to this day, like he'll probably watch this show right now and he'll try to contact me, and I'm just like, I don't want to deal with it. I'm like, just burn the card. Like, what's this? It's easier just to let it go. So, but yeah, it's cool to see the stuff. I mean, with some of those odds, like just for that card to get opened and then surface on eBay or anywhere at a card show, it's pretty amazing, because there's so many people that can wind up with this card that don't sell, or like they end up in like a shoebox or at a Goodwill. So yeah, I've actually, man, I've got like most of my 101 like platinums from Topps. I've been in it, I think, every year since like 07. And I would say I've got like 75% of them. And most people have been cool. It's usually, you could find them, like people either put them up, like buy it now for like $20. So I'm just like, yeah, this is awesome. And then sometimes you just gotta leave it sit. And some people over the last couple of years, a lot of people have started like player collecting me. So I'm kind of fighting them too. And, but I told them I have a rule. I said, I'm not signing anything that's numbered less than 10, because I want it. So yeah, it's
And Pat, if I'm not mistaken, I think I saw on your Instagram page recently, you found like one of your 101s that was like misspelled on eBay. I thought a guy listed an eBay auction, and it was like misspelled. Yeah. And it was like, this one went for a lot more if it was spelled right.
Yeah, people put an AK at the end of my name sometimes. It's very rare, but like this one was awesome, because I think it was like, I want to say it was like a Ginter like mini or something. I got for like, it was like $9.99, and that thing would have been swapped up by one of the player collectors. I didn't see this thing either for like a month, but yeah, you always have to check. I mean, I always put like a save search on eBay, so every morning if something like just random, I have a couple, like I collect like the 52 Hoyt Wilhelm in a high grade, so that one doesn't really come out much. I do like a lot of the 06 like update refractors; those never come out anymore. But yeah, it's always fun.
Well, I think we lost him for a second. He'll be back.
Hopefully he comes back. I want to ask him about.
He'll be back. I'm not worried. Tatis. We got to talk about Tatis.
Yeah, that's what I want to end with.
Just
so let's
check
see. All right.
Oh, you froze, Pat.
Okay.
There you go. You're
You
back.
guys good?
Yeah,
All right.
There it is.
Yeah, I heard you the whole time. So.
All right, good.
Cool.
So, go ahead, Lou.
Nope, go ahead, Ryan.
So one of the things Lou and I were talking about before we started was we know you used to pitch. I'm not the bigger of the baseball guys on this show. It's definitely Lou, but I'm just curious, again, completely off topic from cards, but unwritten rules of baseball. Tatis last night, 3-0, swings, grand slam, already up 7. Just your thoughts on that. I'm super intrigued.
I don't see anything wrong. I like it. I don't know who would really complain about that either. I mean, it's 10-3. I don't even know who was in it. It looked like, was it Nicasio? I couldn't tell.
No, it was a different guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's 10-3. I mean, this guy's working his butt off trying not to get sent down. Make a better pitch, don't fall behind. That's
Just
my
throw
thing.
a better pitch. I don't understand.
Yeah. I've never heard that one before.
It wasn't Nicasio. You're right. Good job.
Was it? Okay. Yeah. I mean, he's just up fresh. I think he just got called up last week. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's just like pissed he gave up the home run. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen any of the comments, but yeah, this new age baseball. I mean, you're getting managers that are 35, 40 years old that some aren't really tuned into the game as much as they should, and it's changed a lot. Maybe that's I mean, from what I saw the last couple of years, it was a different brand of baseball.
Yeah, it's just interesting to me, like his own manager like kind of threw him under the bus last night after the game, and it's like, come on, man. Like, it's so strange. Everything Tatis does and brings to baseball is a positive. It's a huge positive. It makes people like Ryan, who doesn't really like baseball, be interested because Tatis hits a bomb and then dances his way through the entire dugout. Like, it's funny.
Yeah.
So it's always very weird to me when that stuff happens. And it was cool to see Davies kind of come to his aid last night as a backup, like just throw a better pitch. So
I mean, I think everybody's just trying to be so PC with some of these jobs, and it was cool to see like Donaldson and Trevor Plouffe like going, hey man, as a pitcher, I'm just like, 3-0, I'm trying to throw a strike, and hey, whatever, he hit it out. I mean, what would you rather do, give up a grand slam or like walk the guy in? I mean, both are pretty crappy, so it's
it's
whatever.
tough.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong, and good for him.
Yeah. Cool. So I think, just to wrap it up here, it was awesome to have you on. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
And just what are you thinking about in terms of what cards, what sets you trying to finish right now? And then are there any newer things that you're into right now?
Yeah. My son's been like real into cards. So it's weird where I'm at. The closest card shop's like 45 minutes. So we'll go to like Walmart or Target and try to hit up the blaster box section. And that's been sold out lately. It's hard. You'll see like 500 Pokemon boxes, but you'll see like one pack of like, it'll be like a I don't even know what's even, it would be like a Panini Optic or something would be on there. But so we'll buy anything that's out, but it's just hard to find product right now. So what am I trying to collect? I don't know. This whole modern craze is pretty cool to see. I mean, I've been collecting pretty hard like the boxes and stuff since 06. It's just weird. I mean, we bought a couple of boxes of just regular Topps base, and you're only getting like 1 or 2 gold cards in the whole box. And I remember like you would get like 8 to 16. So the odds are, that means they're printing just a ton of stuff, which is, it's really cool. There's a lot of really good people at Topps and around the hobby. So I love the enthusiasm. I don't know. I hope it, with social media, I think there's really cool ways where everybody can collect. So that's different from the 80s where like, people are going to have their guys. And I just think we might need like a new medium for ways to flip like graded cards or stuff like that. So I don't know. It's to me, it's really cool to see though.
Hell yeah. Cool. So yeah, Pat, thank you again. Tell them everyone they want to follow you on Card. This is your new Cards account, right? Wait, I'm trying to do the point thing.
Yeah. I have it private, so it's basically just we're going to talk about cards on there and collecting and memorabilia and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean Twitter, it's kind of like you'll get like 100 trolls and stuff, and I still like to be on there. I don't really have a problem with it, but the Instagram thing's been really awesome. I've had a lot of fun with it.
Hell yeah. And of course, we are brothers in eBay. Shout out to eBay. The best place of all time.
eBay, that was really fun. We did, we had eBay came in, they filmed my whole collection. It's really hard for me to open up my collection and show it off, and they made it real easy. And we sat here a couple days. I think they hit on everything that I collected. Just tons of stuff. They showcased like my Reggie Jackson cards, my Thurman Munson, my Kirby Puckett. He was like
that video was so cool.
Yeah, when I was little. So it was really cool that that wasn't. I've been on eBay since the late '90s. I don't know if there's too many baseball players that do that, but I love to sell on there. That's where I go.
Hell yeah! All right, cool. Thank you
Thank
again.
you, Pat.
We'll talk to you soon, bro.
Thanks, guys.
See you, Pat.
Alrighty.
All right, so that was our interview with Pat Neshek, former Major League Baseball pitcher. Appreciate him coming on and chatting with us. Although Tyler wasn't able to be there, it was still a hell of an interview. So let's now get into Stump the Shop. Stump the Shop's brought to you by eBay, your number one stop for buying and selling trading cards and memorabilia. So, Lou, I'm just going to get right into it. What happened with your Bulbasaur, the leaf in the title? How did we do?
We did pretty well, Tyler. I was honestly, I was a little bit let down early on, but I've since recovered and thought to myself, oh wait, we 3x'd on this card, so I feel pretty good about that. So I actually said last time on the show we bought it for $325. We actually bought it for $225.
Okay.
So that's a W.
I'm gonna need proof.
Sure, I would love for you to check out the Google sheet that you don't look at. The card went at auction and it finalized at $673. It sold to an international buyer, actually, so that was exciting. And it finished off, $670 it sold for. So we are now plus 430 something or whatever. That's quick math. I don't think that's right, but that's fine. 430 something. So I think me and you need to have a conversation about what we're going to buy. I have some thoughts. I have a question for the group. Are we allowed to buy something raw and grade it and count the grading fees against the show?
I was thinking about that. That's super intriguing. The only thing I think we risk here is it not getting done in time. Then it kind of just.
How much time do we have? We have like 6 weeks, right?
We have 20 weeks or 18,
yes.
8 weeks.
I think we can pull it off. If you got a guy, you got a guy.
I got a guy. I got some raw action I'm thinking about. And I think we can make some real cash. So I kind of want to do it and just keep pounding Ryan.
I agree. I think it's within the rules.
I think that's kind of like
we
don't bring this up at all. And then you're like, hey, let's just go ahead and grade cards. We're just making up rules as we go.
Okay, let's do this. How
makes
about
it a little bit more of a challenge when we're just like,
hey,
we're gonna add this rule.
You could have graded your Garrett Cole autographs, but you chose not to.
I flipped to Garrett Cole. I made $200 on Garrett Cole. Again, remember the point of this discussion is this segment is to show people you don't need there's multiple ways to flip cards.
Yeah,
right?
One of them is buying a graded card and selling it. Another one's buying a raw card and selling it. Another one is buying a raw card, grading it, and selling it.
And the other one is buying things you think are underpriced intentionally. The other one is finding underpriced assets. The other, again, I just think there's a lot of different strategy here. And that's, like I said, that's why I like it. It will be very interesting to see what happens long term. I'm super intrigued by it.
We have a drop dead, if we submit them and they're not back in time, then I got cooked. That's RL.
Fair enough. All right.
Love it. All right. I think the number one thing we need to get into is a little bit more volume, and that's on me. So,
I mean, you can't be taking vacations and not be willing to put in the effort into Stump the Shop. I mean, I'm taking vacations, putting the effort in. Lou's not taking vacations and put the effort in.
I'm literally grinding comments while we're recording the podcast.
But that's not Stump the Shop.
It is.
It could be. List it, Ty. I'll buy it, and then we'll sell it.
I might, yeah.
All right. So I bought a lot the other day. I have not added it to the Google spreadsheet yet. Just kind of a
Huh.
similar type lot.
Nice.
Mixed sports, all graded cards. I will show that on the next week's or the next episode we talk about Stump the Shop. But
Yeah, I think
Gonna need
next week
a-
we should
gonna
get a
need
scorecard. I think we need a scorecard next week to keep everybody updated
Yeah.
on the total amounts.
yep, let's do it. Gonna need some work though. I mean, $400 on one card. I mean, tripling your money. That speaks to what we wanted to talk about on the show. And hats off to you guys. I mean, you don't need 16 years to do, in cards to flip cards to make money at this. I mean, $400, that's real money. And I think that's important to show people here is this can be done and by everyone or every different stage in the hobby at this point. There's definitely an opportunity. So
I also got these cool pineapple mailers I'm excited about. Just want you guys to know that. Thank you.
Nice.
So that is all we got for Stump the Shop this week. Stump the Shop, again, is brought to you by eBay, your number one stop for buying and selling trading cards and memorabilia. So last segment this week is going to be latest launch. So we've got big release week this week. We've got Immaculate Baseball, Topps 5-star Baseball, Immaculate Collegiate Football for 2020 with Burrow, too, and those guys. And then there's... I want to double check this, but I think it's called Bowman Transcendent. Yeah. So listen to this. This is the one that intrigues me the most. It's Bowman Transcendent Collection Baseball. So you guys ready for the price of this?
Sounds like some premium product that they're trying to put out.
$21,000. There's
For
a
a
hundred.
box?
There's 100 cases total. 1 box per case. 84 cards per box. It has 50 Bowman icons. It has a 50 card Bowman icon set numbered to 100. It has 30 Transcendent Collection autographs numbered to 25 or less, including 2 101s. You have 1 Vlad or Yordan Alvarez autograph numbered 101. You have a 55 Bowman Baseball Superfractor auto 101. You have an oversized 55 Bowman Baseball Cut Signature 101.
What?
One graded Bowman buyback card and 1 VIP Transcendent Party Invitation limited to 100. It says, join us for a one-of-a-kind collector's experience among some of the game's future stars. So, for instance, Topps had a party, one of these parties recently. It was like Topps Transcendent Collection. It was like, I want to say it was in Vegas. It had Mike Trout. So the ticket alone typically brings some cash. But yeah, $21,000.
I like what they're doing.
$21,000, 84 cards, and 1 ticket to a VIP party. So
That
That's-
sounds crazy.
I
that
like that.
product typically ends up in the hands of breakers, and that speaks to how big. We talked about it in episode 1. It was one of the first things we ever talked about on this podcast. That speaks so much to how big breaking is.
Yeah.
You get a random team in this entire case. You could hit no cards. You could hit 5 autographs. You could win the ticket. You could get, there's just so much you could get into it. So for a fraction of that $21,000 cost, you get to play the game of, 1 in 30 MLB team. I think that's very intriguing. So talks a lot about, or speaks to a lot about how big breaking is in sports card right now, and while it will continue to have success.
Are you trying to get some of those or one?
No, that's an extremely allocated product. You've got to be a pretty big.
$21,000.
You got to be a pretty, and there's only 100 cases. You've got to be a pretty big breaker to do that. So
Word.
that is all we got for this week. Again, check us out on social, Card Talk Pod on Twitter and Instagram. But that's all we got for episode 8. See you guys next week.
Peace.